You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
I think they've been fantastic so far. Really, out of the multiple days, I thought, they've come out with energy and juice, really all but maybe one. I thought they woke up halfway, but really they're bringing that. And if they do that and establish how we play in terms of physicality and effort, it'll be a lot of fun to watch. So that's been the key for us.
I'm going to go and assume the one day Joe Sloan was saying that the offense didn't have physicality and effort was a Tuesday. It was the last time the media was out there. It was a day that was, if you go back and have any interest to check out our practice report from that day, it was a sort of lazy, uninspired, lackadaisical effort by the offense, and the defense took full advantage. See if that changes on Saturday when the Tigers are back out there. Glad to have you hanging out with us here on this Friday edition of AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Joe Sloan did meet with reporters on Friday after practice. The Tigers had an off day on Thursday, a recovery day. If you follow them on social media, they went to an arcade, lots of photos. Very appropriately placed photo of Garrett Nussmeier playing air hockey, where they were sure to get a full-length photo so you could see his knees bending, no braces, anything like that. No limitations there, playing air hockey. Hat tip to the LSU football social media department. They did a great job tactfully releasing photos of Garrett Nussmeier over the last 36 hours or so. But Tigers are back on the practice field on Friday, and Joe Sloan met with reporters afterwards. And, I think a lot of the conversation that we were anticipating having was the growth of the offense from a year ago, where they were very good throwing the ball, obviously, and struggled running the ball, to this year with Joe Sloan now with the added toys in the toy chest that they went and got in the transfer portal, a reshaped offensive line, and a growth in a play caller from year one to year two. But I also think it's important to remember, as we talk about the context of LSU a season ago, we often bring up the fact that LSU struggled to run the ball, which is true. They were 104th in the country in rush offense and dead last in the SEC. LSU struggled mightily to run the football, and there's a lot of reasons therein. Some of it's on the backs. Some of it is on the offensive line. Some of it's on Nussmeier. Some of it's on play calling. Like everybody, when you're that bad at doing a thing, everyone sort of shares a responsibility therein. And we've talked about how this is going to be a team that very much is inspired to run the football. But the other thing, too, that we sometimes forget is last year when Chris Hilton got hurt and subsequently Kyle Parker got hurt, LSU couldn't stretch the field. Does that ring a bell? Like, you had some really talented receivers. You had Aaron Anderson and C.J. Daniels and Kyron Lacey, but nobody that could blow the top off the defense. And it's very clear they went in the portal with an intention of fixing that. Now, look, Jelani Watkins could blow the top off a defense, but he's 5'9" and was a true freshman, and they weren't going to put him in there just to go run fast and run down the field. So all they really ran were slants last year. I mean, everything was within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. They couldn't stretch the field until at the end of the season when you saw Chris Hilton come back, and then you started to see them take shots down the field. It was very intentional because they could. This year, you don't have that problem. You have a healthy Chris Hilton. You've brought in Barry and Brown. You've got Nick Anderson. You got dudes that can flat fly and blow the top off the defense. And Joe Sloan talked a little today about the differences in the offense from a year ago, his first year as the offensive coordinator, taking over for Mike Denbrock to now.
We're a different team, different offense than we were a year ago. A lot of talent last year, a lot of talent this year, but we're going to make sure that we adapt it to who we have and put them in positions to use their talent and skill to attack defenses. And I think we have a lot of pieces that allow us to do a lot of different things. So that's what we're excited about, and that's what we're making sure we're building every day. Did some of it in spring, right? Some of it in summer, and now putting it into effect in fall camp.
Now, one of the things I think is very obvious that they're building is the ability to run the football in many creative different ways. This is not going to be an I formation give between the tackles running game. This is a very diverse running game, and that is very evident. That's something Joe Sloan talked about.
We got to run the football, right? You got to run the football in the SEC. And I think we've looked at some scheme things. We've looked at some personnel things, right? It's a combination. I think having Caden Durham as a second-year player, obviously he's an electric player and a really good football player, but he still was a true freshman last year that came in June, right? He's a lot better football player today than he was at this time last year. And I think, right, Garrett's understanding of how he can help. And then there's some schematic things where we're going to be able to put some guys in positions to make sure we can create some more explosives in the run game. And I think that's the key, right, is creating explosives in the run game.
Explosives in the run game. And then he also talked about schemes. Remember, you don't have to be a super refined, knowledgeable football savant to recognize what they're doing offensively. We're seeing Xavier Thomas line up in the backfield and take handoffs. We are seeing Juwan Johnson line up in the backfield taking handoffs from Nussmeier. We are seeing Juwan Johnson in the backfield taking direct snaps from Garrett Nussmeier. We are seeing them run the ball on jet sweeps with Xavier Thomas. We saw it in the spring as well with Aaron Anderson, but Aaron Anderson's been injured up until this point after day one. We are seeing zone reads with the quarterback with intention of Garrett Nussmeier running. I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is going to have 100 rushing attempts on the season or anything, but I think his ability to run is going to be part of this offense. They know they have to run the ball. You cannot be 104th in the country and dead last in the SEC in rushing offense and think you're going to be competitive. It's just not a real thing that's going to happen. They've got to be better. And so if it's not going to be in a traditional sense, then they got to get creative, and that's what Joe's saying there. Now, a big part of the traditional sense is getting better on the offensive line. And I asked Joe Sloan today, I asked a very broad question just to see what direction he took it, but I asked his assessment of the offensive line so far through a week of fall camp.
Obviously, we have a lot of competition at guard, and I think you're seeing flashes of different guys daily who are playing really well. I think our tackles, the two guys coming into spring, where those two guys are going to be first-year starters, and I think definitely when you watch, they have been excellent. Excellent in terms of their growth, right? They got to keep coming, they got to get better every day, but I've been really pleased with what they've done. And I think Braylon's played extremely good at center, and I think we have a couple other guys who could, we have some depth at center, which is nice. And then I think, you see some of the young guys who are now starting to come on. I think this is the second half of camp where you'd like to see some of the freshmen or second-year players start to push and take that next step and challenge some of the guys that maybe are in front of them right now.
He talked pretty highly about those offensive tackles. And, what he's looking for moving forward is the continued growth. I want you to listen to this next sound because it's interesting. One of the contentions I've made, and I was curious what he would say, is I think this is a very talented offensive line. We go watch them do individuals, and the offensive line more than holds their own against the defensive front. When they go into a team period, it's like a purple avalanche falling on the offense. It's like a purple blanket just draping over the offensive front. So what it tells me is those five got to learn how to play together. Here was Joe Sloan's contention.
Our defense throws a lot at us. Different fronts, different pressures, and seeing those, and once they get to rep them, and then understand how it feels and how to attack that. So I like the individual growth, and I like the collective growth of the offensive line. But just like the entire offense, we're going to need every day to get fully prepared for what we need to do this fall.
The defense throws a lot at us. Don't think for a second that Blake Baker and Joe Sloan aren't competitive when they go out there. They want to go win their days as well. And Blake Baker is throwing a whole bunch at this team. And that's something Joe Sloan was asked about with Blake, what he's seen from Blake Baker's defense. And in no uncertain terms, he knows what they have to face every day and what other teams are going to have to face.
Now, players playing fast. The implementation of the defense, right, and the structure, so that there's less thinking, more ability to tinker and have different little things that they want to do based on alignments. And I think they're playing really smart football, but also I think there's a lot of really good athletes over there too. I think the secondary is playing extremely well, and I think the whole front's playing well. They pose a lot of problems, right, and it's a good thing for us, right, because then they make an adjustment, then we got to see it and we got to make that adjustment. But it's great for us to see. I think they got some twitchy guys inside coming off the football, which is going to be really good and good to watch on the other side. You know what I mean? When we don't have to play them, so that'd be nice.
Twitchy guys on the inside coming off the football. Brian Kelly said it earlier this week, the ability to affect a pass rush inside out. Because if you're just coming from the edge, you can get wide, you can push them out. When it's up the middle, it's much more difficult to deal with. You hear Sloan say it. They got twitchy guys on the inside that have been a lot to deal with. It's been a lot for the LSU offensive line to handle. See over these next couple of weeks how the offensive line continue to progress against that defense, the more reps that they get together. Good convo with Joe Sloan. We should have access to Blake Baker at the end of next week of fall camp. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.